All right, time for our recruiting preview that we do each week. Of course, Nate Clouse from HuskerOnline.com. I'm Michael Severe. Before we get to the players, the announcement yesterday for the facilities, you already hear good things from student athletes that come through here. What's this going to do for recruiting?
I think it's going to put it over the top. I mean, it'll be something that really sticks out, right? So right now, I think there's aspects, certain things here or there that kind of stick out, but I think everything will stick out to these guys. And I remember when they built the new North Stadium, and when recruits would come through, and you show them the plans, you show them the renderings, and especially when you're able to start walking them through the construction site, I mean, their eyes light up, and you can see the wheels are turning, like, okay, I can imagine myself here. This is going to be awesome, so on and so forth. And it's not always the reason why someone commits somewhere, but it definitely plays a role in the recruiting process.
No doubt about that. So how would you compare this recruiting weekend to big ones that they've had before?
I mean, this is right up there. There's been a lot of big weekends over the years, but I think this is arguably the biggest, especially when you look at everything that's gone on in Lincoln with the basketball last night, Rick Ross, the facilities announcement, game day being here, night game against Ohio State in prime time, right, so on and so forth. So many visitors that are in town, 11 officials and 6 other commits and 10 to 15 other guys that have offers and on and down the line. It's arguably the biggest weekend that I've been a part of or seen in the last 15, 20 years.
Obviously, Logan Smothers is a quarterback commit. He's bringing one of his boys with him from high school?
He is. Jackson Bratton, inside linebacker, number 1 linebacker in the state of Alabama. Been committed to Alabama now for 18 months, and so that's kind of the dynamic. You don't see too many guys or too many players flipping away from Nick Saban, but the interesting part of it is that he's teammates with Logan Smothers, best friends with Logan Smothers. They've been playing football together since they were in Pop Warner or whatever, and so there's an opportunity to continue playing football together, and obviously Nebraska has opportunity for early playing time at that inside linebacker position, which is something that is appealing to him.
Not the only kid coming from Alabama either.
No, Rodney Gross, another inside linebacker, the number 2 inside linebacker in the state of Alabama. And for a lot of the same reasons Jackson Bratton is interested in Nebraska, same with Rodney Gross. There's early opportunity to get on the field here at Nebraska. He likes Barrett Ruud. As somebody who's played in the NFL, he's all-time tackle leader here at Nebraska. I mean, there's a lot of things that are appealing to him, and so far it seems like his visit's going pretty well, and obviously we'll catch up with him after the weekend.
One of the guys I really like is Marcus Black, the defensive lineman. I think we talked about him about a year ago. He's a talented kid, and he can play across the line, too.
He really can. And he's one of those guys that I think Tony Tuioti kind of targets, somebody who gives a lot of flexibility, can move around and do different things across that defensive front. He likes recruiting those guys that aren't just exactly pigeonholed into an end or nose guard or whatever. And he definitely brings a lot of that to the table, especially when you watch his senior film. He's doing a lot of different things, and primarily as an end in their 3-man front. So you like to see that.
It's a lot of guys, but do you have a feel for any of them that really feel like they could be a guy that maybe could commit right after this?
Yeah, I do think that Marquise Black is a kid that could possibly pull a trigger early.
What about Caden Johnson out of Minneapolis?
Caden Johnson, he's a guy, Nebraska's right there with Wisconsin with him. And that's before his official visit this weekend. And so I think with a really good trip, that could push him over the edge too. And, and I know there's a couple other schools that he's waiting on possibly to see if they offer. But I tell you what, if things go really well, I wouldn't be surprised if he were to end things rather than later as well.
Yeah. Along with all the guys who are here on officials, you mentioned a lot of other visitors. Is there a guy that kind of stands out from that group?
There's obviously TJ Bowlers and Travion Ford are probably the 2 underclassmen that stick out, along with Teddy Prohaska. Yeah. I mean, you're talking 3 top 100, top 250 type of recruits from the 500-mile radius, which is obviously important, that are all going to be here this weekend in that 2021 class. And I think it's really important to start getting those 2021s, those high-profile 2021s on campus at the same time, so they can start to build a bond with one another, and talk about, if we went to Nebraska together or whatever, those natural conversations that happen when you have a big recruiting weekend like this.
Miles Slusher was just here recently, but back again. What does that mean?
Yeah, you know what? Still committed to Oregon, right. But obviously, 2 times in the span of 3 weeks, back-to-back home games, and this one is on his own dime. And so I think that tells you that there's possibly some movement. Obviously, Nebraska gave him a lot to think about in that first official visit. He's gone very quiet, has not said a whole lot to anybody about how that visit went or where he's at in the process. But I think this unofficial is pretty telling.
Yeah. Last thing, you've been through a lot of these. Does it matter if they win in terms of this group of guys and maybe getting commits?
I don't think it does. I don't think that if they were to lose this tonight, I don't think that all hope is lost. That you're going to have no shot with any of these guys. Now, obviously, if you win, that's huge.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is going to be great, and if you're able to keep it close, I think you can obviously tell these guys that, hey, we're not too far away, maybe just a couple pieces away. But at the same time, if the game does get out of hand, you can also point to that and say, hey, look, we need you, and we need you badly.
Right, sure.
And we feel like we're trending in the right direction, but we need pieces here, and here, and there's early opportunity for you to come in and be a guy. So, I mean, you can kind of spin it and frame it any way you want. So a win or a loss doesn't necessarily, it's not the end all be all tonight.
Yeah. Of course, follow Nate on Twitter as well, who have all this stuff over the next couple of days after this is over, and hopefully maybe even reports of a commit.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a couple that come out of this weekend, and maybe even by the time they leave campus.
Sounds great. Enjoy the game.